Welcome everyone to the first session of our professional learning series. Texas OnCourse and our team has refreshed our webinar series a little bit. We've added a couple of things this school year. It's hard to believe we're actually starting the school year so quickly. The summer is almost behind us. So we wanted to extend our monthly webinars a little bit and add a couple of different features. We're working on our whole webinar series now. So we've planned it all throughout the year, topics that are relevant to your college and career advising practice. And we've also added an element of just like informal coffee chat with your colleagues. So we want to provide you with a little bit of time to informally get together with folks, go into breakout rooms, talk about what you're doing on ApplyTexas and things like that. So we will send all that information out on the coffee chats and that information for you to have. My slides are not advancing. Excuse our tech support issue here. Apologies, we have a frozen screen. 1 second. Perfect, sorry. So our coffee chat is 30 minutes. There's no prep needed. You can collaborate with your colleagues, and we have already sent out an invite for that, August 29th. We'll do 30 minutes with folks, and feel free to join us. And we'll send another invite to you when we send out this email. Also, I noticed in the chat, folks are already interested in financial aid. So we wanted to talk about college applications in August, and we're going to tackle financial aid simplified. Is it really that simple? On September 12th, in our September financial aid webinar. We will share that invite for you in our webinar here when we send out that email to you. So this morning we are covering college applications, and we have experts from the Common App and ApplyTexas here. I will talk a little bit about some of the updates that you all put in the chat and that you would like to get before you start working on the application and using the Counselor Suite and ApplyTexas with your students this year. So we're going to quickly just take a quick poll on how much you all know about Texas OnCourse. So let me launch that now. So we'd like to know just what you know about Texas OnCourse. We see some beginners, some folks have an average set of experiences with us. We know lots of people are new to a different role, lots of new positions. Wonderful. We have lots of great things that we're creating this year. And different products, different sites. We have a lot to update you on this school year during the professional learning series. Perfect, thank you all so much. So just real quickly, you can see we have lots of average folks that have been using Texas OnCourse for a bit. All right, my name is Laura Guggen, and I'm Director of Professional Learning and Engagement here at Texas OnCourse. So our team oversees lots of different information. Let me stop sharing the full. Lots of different information on Texas OnCourse, the Academy, updates to the Academy, and we'll spotlight our resources. And this morning, Michaela Elkhorn is here from the Common App. Who's going to talk a little bit about those updates. And Samantha Gonzalez is joining us this morning, our Assistant Director of Resources, to do our resource spotlight. So as many of you know that have come to our webinars before with Texas OnCourse, all Texas students, no matter where they come from or where they're headed, have a plan for success after high school. We create resources that simplify the college and career planning process with free digital tools, easy to digest information. We have educator training in our academy. Our team also works with school districts, universities, and ESCs. And we provide access to extensive resources, and all of the things that we put out, we share through email, we share through our social channels, and through our professional learning events and sessions. So we kind of covered all of the startup information and welcome information, and then Michaela is going to cover the Common App. I will cover some updates to ApplyTexas, and Claudette Jenks will answer some questions on ApplyTexas. And then we'll close out on our resource spotlight with Samantha Gonzalez. And we'll also have time for question and answer toward the end of the webinar. Michaela, I'm going to turn it over to you to talk a little bit about the Common App.
Wonderful. Good morning, everyone. I'm super excited to be here. Like they shared, my name is Michaela Alcorn, and I'm the manager of counselor engagement at Common App. Previous to being at Common App, I actually worked on the college admission side of things. So I actually worked at Trinity University in San Antonio, Texas for almost 7 years in the admissions space. And so that's another kind of angle of experience that I'm bringing to this presentation. I do live in San Antonio, Texas. I think I saw a few fellow San Antonians in the chat. And so just really excited to be able to present on some updates about Common App. So we can go ahead and get started. So first, there's a poll question that they're going to launch about how much experience you have with Common App. Is this, an introduction? Is it a kind of a beginner stage of working with Common App? Is it average? Some experience, but maybe not quite to that expert level? Or do you feel really experienced with Common App, really comfortable with the application platform? So I think they're going to launch that poll in just a moment.
Yeah, and why don't y'all go ahead and put it in the chat? It'll just be easier that way. We're having a tricky time with our polls right now. So if you want to put it in your chat, let us know how familiar you are with the Common App.
Right.
There we go. Thank you all.
Yes, thank you. I'm seeing quite a large mix of like beginning and average. Like that seems to be the largest percentage that I'm seeing there, which is great. So this can be both sort of an introduction for those who are unfamiliar, but then also an update for those who are maybe a bit more comfortable or have experience with Common App in the past. So thank you for putting that in the chat. So the focus of my presentation and what I'm going to share is mostly updates, like the big changes that I think you should be aware of, but I'll also start with a more general overview and provide resources for where you can get tools that will help you be even more comfortable with Common App in the platform. So what I'm going to cover today is first, like I mentioned, the Common App community. So just who Common App is, the colleges that utilize Common App. I'll dig into some Texas state data to share with you as well. And then some of the system enhancements and updates that I think you should be aware of. I'll also make sure to share some really helpful tools and resources and then get to some of your questions. All right, so first we're going to talk about the Common App community. So Common App is an online college application that hopefully makes things a bit more easy and streamlined for students to apply to college. We make that process faster and easier because students only need one application to then apply to multiple colleges. Each year, more than 1 million students, about a third of whom are first gen, are applying to college through the Common App. Our mission as an organization is we are a nonprofit membership organization committed to the pursuit of access, equity, and integrity in the college admissions process. And our vision is to be the trusted source to access, afford, and attain opportunity for all. So you can see we're really aligned with the mission of Texas OnCourse as well. So this is just to give you an idea of where Common App started and where we are today. I always think this slide is interesting because often when I'm speaking with people, they think Common App is maybe relatively new or started in recent years, but we've actually been around since 1975. We started with 15 member colleges, and you can see we've had really exponential growth in recent years. In 1998, we went online for the first time. In 2017, we launched our transfer application. In 2019, we joined forces with Reach Higher, which is former First Lady Michelle Obama's College Equity and Access Initiative. And you can see where we're at pretty much to today. I know that this only goes through 2022, where we had just over 1,000 member colleges. But we just announced that we have 50 new colleges that have joined Common App. So we have almost 1,100 colleges that are members of Common App and accept the Common App platform. You can see this broken out a little bit more here. And again, these numbers are not updated for this upcoming application cycle. We just launched that on August 1st, but almost 1,100 member institutions, roughly 300 of those colleges are public institutions, and almost half of the colleges that accept Common App do not charge an application fee. We have colleges in all 50 US states, and including DC and Puerto Rico, almost 60 international colleges in 18 different countries, and we have almost 700 colleges that are accepting our transfer application. Now, I want to point out that this presentation is really focused on the first year application. So if you're advising students who are going through the transfer process, I can provide information about that, but this session will really be geared more towards that first year application process. So I mentioned we have quite a few new members who joined Common App. At the time that we made this slide, it was only 29 new members, but like I shared, we now have 50 new colleges that are joining for the 23-24 application cycle. In particular, I want to call attention to the growth that we've seen in colleges from Texas that have joined the Common App. You can see we had 3 new ones at the time the slide was published, from Angelo State University, Houston Christian University, and UTEP. So we're seeing this growth in the colleges that are joining and becoming members of Common App. This is a snapshot of our first year applicants. You can see the top 15 states. Texas is number 4, and the number of students utilizing and submitting applications through Common App. We had 1.3 million unique applicants use Common App last year, and they submitted 8.6 million applications, or just about 8.6 million applications. Students are using Common App from all over the country, from all over the globe, and about 10% of the students who use Common App are international students. Last year, we also noticed some interesting trends that I'll kind of circle back to near the end of the presentation with some ongoing initiatives that we have. But we noticed a 14% increase in underrepresented applicants and a 14% increase in first-generation applicants. We also noticed a 22% increase in fee waiver applicants. So some of these trends, these demographic shifts that we've noticed have really played into some of the work that you're going to see with Common App in the near future. I also want to point out some of our recommender integration partners. So these are college and career readiness platforms that you might be familiar with, especially if you are in a high school or working with students at particular high schools that use one of these platforms. For example, Parchment, Naviance, Mile Learning, that they utilize these partners to submit documents to Common App, and we're fully integrated with these particular partners. And we added 2 new ones this year. So Pathful Explore and Defined Careers. So if you're working with students who are at schools that utilize these integration partners, just know that they're fully integrated with the Common App platform and have that partnership there. So now I'm going to dive into some Texas state data, some trends that we're seeing, just to kind of orient ourselves here and what's going on in Texas and Common App. You can see here that we have 34 members or colleges and institutions that are part of Common App. 14 of those are public institutions. I'll pause here for just a moment so you can see the breadth and depth of institutions that are accepting Common App applications here. You can see the blue ones are the public institutions, and the little asterisks are the ones that are new either from 22, 23, or this upcoming year, 23, 24. We've noticed a significant increase in the students using Common App. I think that makes a lot of sense considering we've had several new institutions from Texas joining Common App, but you can see the increase in unique applicants was up almost 27%, and the number of applications was up almost 50%. So we've seen a lot of growth in students utilizing Common App, and again, that aligns as we're seeing more colleges accepting and becoming members of Common App. I think this slide is interesting just to kind of see an idea of where students are applying to, the top receiving institutions from students in Texas. Just an interesting idea of, and I think if you click forward one more, it will show both from last year and then this most recent cycle. Perfect. So in 21-22, the top receiving institution was University of Houston, followed by UT Dallas, and then Rice. And then last year, we saw significant changes with UT Austin and A&M joining Common App. And you can see that those were the top two receiving institutions from Texas students last year. I also want to highlight that we have a data analytics and research team that does a lot of really great work with the plethora of data that we're able to have access to. Data really is the foundation of everything that we do at Common App. With over 1,000 member colleges and 1.3 million applicants, the aggregate data that we have on the admissions process in general is really deep and rich, and we feel like we have a responsibility to use that data in meaningful ways. So we have a data warehouse that was actually created with the support of the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, which allowed us to really start digging into trends starting back in 2013. But the intent of that grant was to really help us create a tool to inform the public discourse on trends that we're seeing in college admissions, not just the number of students that are applying, but who they are, where they're coming from, where there might be gaps. And so we regularly publish different reports on our website, and that includes statewide reports. So if you're just interested generally in the trends that are happening in the state of Texas, for example, you can have access to that in our reports and insights page. So just wanted to call attention to some of the data work that we're doing, and this will come up in some of the updates that I'm sharing a little bit later. So now that we're grounded in what's happening with Common App in Texas, now I'm going to dive into the updates. I'm not going to be logging into the application platform and showing you around that in this particular presentation, but I'm going to show you how to access the application and how to get tutorials on that a little bit later in the tools and resources. This section is truly just on the updates, so the things that are coming down the line for 23-24. So we officially launched our application on August 1st. So you might have already had students that were logging in to create their applications, maybe have even started applying, but students do not have to wait until August 1st of each year to create their application. You might be working with students who are sophomores or juniors, and they already want to get a jump start on the application process. That's wonderful. Students can create an account at any time, and it does roll over year to year. If a student creates an account, their username and password will remain the same. And there are a few things that will roll over and a few things that don't that I want to call attention to. So first, what does roll over? If a student had already created an account before August 1st of the year they're applying, if they already started adding colleges to their list of colleges to apply to, that will roll over. So will any answers to questions on the Common App tab. So in the application, there is a Common App tab. That is a common set of questions that your student only has to answer once and then is sent to every other college that they are applying to. So if your student has already logged in and was completing that section, those answers will roll over year to year. Another thing that changed this year that rolls over are advisor invitations. So for those of you who are maybe more familiar with Common App or have a lot of experience, you might be familiar with that advisor role, which is really where a student can assign someone to help them with tracking their application progress but doesn't fit into a counselor role, doesn't fit into a teacher role, just a college advisor or college access advisor. If a student has invited you before August 1st, that invitation will roll over year to year. Now, there are a few things that don't roll over, again, worth pointing out, so that if students are starting now but not applying for another year or two, that they don't lose anything. But answers to college-specific questions. So the Common App tab has that common set of questions, and then each college has the ability to ask their own individual questions. Those do change year to year. So if your student is starting the process really early, like prior to August 1st, make sure they're saving answers to those questions outside of Common App so that they're not losing all the work that they're doing. And students do have to recomplete the FERPA release authorization year to year. That will not change. So that does have to be re-signed year to year. And finally, if they're inviting you as a recommender, as a counselor or teacher, that does not roll over year to year, and they'd have to re-invite you. So again, this is really just highlighting those things that do roll over and do not roll over for students that are creating an account a little bit early before they're starting to apply to college. So a couple of updates that happened for this upcoming cycle. One of the first updates is that we did add a third option to legal sex. The reason we did this was really to align with national trends that we're seeing. We now see this in 23 states and the District of Columbia, so DC, that has an option other than male and female on state IDs. And we're also seeing this happen at a federal level. So just updating our application to align with some of those national trends. We're also trying to really support student preferences and student autonomy in the application process. And you see this in a few ways. First is with the name that a student wants to be called in communication in particular. What we found in talking to students is that they're really concerned about a lack of really control and transparency around what provided names were being used with who and where. They just didn't understand that. So making it very clear what name they are choosing to go by in communication preferences through Common App. So just making that more transparent and more clear as they're creating their application. We also increase student autonomy in a couple of other ways. First is in their ability to change a practice account into a live account. So students might have gone in and created a practice student account. And if they want to switch that practice account to a live account, they have the ability to do that in the application platform itself. So just giving them more autonomy. And also in changing their start year. Perhaps they've decided to take a gap year and so won't be starting their process for another year, or maybe they just put the wrong entry date when they started the application. They can go into the application platform and update that as well. So again, just trying to increase student autonomy and being able to make particular changes in their application platform. In the testing section, we had a couple of small changes. One of those was for the SAT, ACT writing score. We just changed our language here from have you taken to would you like to report, just to make it more clear to students that they weren't required to report a score for the writing section. We also updated the ACT writing score range just to be accurate. It wasn't accurate before, so now it is accurate. We removed the TOEFL paper test score just because the paper version is no longer available. And we changed behavior of test suppression on PDFs. So suppression is a word that we're using at Common App about information that a college can choose not to see when a student applies. One of those is testing. A college can decide they do not want to see that information in an application. So we made it a lot more clear to students what information a college can see and what they have chosen not to see. And this slide really gets to that in a lot more detail. We just wanted to improve that visibility to students on what information is being suppressed or not seen by a particular college in the application PDF. So you can see that on the right-hand image, there's like a blue text box that will pop up that lets them know, hey, this particular college is not going to see this specific information because they have suppressed that information in their process. And so some of those examples could be testing, like test scores, could be race and ethnicity, and we'll talk about that in a little bit, could even be partial Social Security. And the idea is we don't want a student to look at their PDF of the application sent to a college and wonder, wait, I submitted my test scores. Why is that not showing up on the PDF? It could be that that particular college suppressed that information. So just making that a lot more clear for students. I saw a couple of questions in the chat about essay prompts for this upcoming year. We did not change our essay prompts for the 23-24 cycle. They will remain exactly the same 7 topics as before, from facing adversity, personal growth, background, identity, interest, or talent, intellectual curiosity, gratitude, challenging an idea, or the topic of your choice. And you can see those broken down there of the topics that students are choosing at more of a higher frequency. There is still that 650 word limit that has not changed. And students do have the power to import their writing from Google Drive. So if they've been working on their essay externally from Common App, maybe they've been working on it in the Google Drive system, they can import their responses into Common App from Google Drive. I want to highlight that this is specifically about the personal essay and not about any supplemental essays that a college might require. Some colleges do ask for supplemental writing samples, and we have a really helpful requirements grid. I'm happy to share that in the chat if there's interest, that goes through the different colleges that do require, for example, testing or fee waivers, or in this example, a supplemental writing requirement. So that requirements grid is another helpful tool that we'll talk about a bit later. In terms of recommenders and FERPA, there's been a couple of small changes here. We did improve the language on inviting and assigning recommenders to hopefully make that just a little bit more clear to students what steps they have to take so that someone knows they've been invited and assigned as a recommender or someone to write a recommendation on their behalf. And we improved the visibility of recommendations that were accepted at a college or not. So you can sort of see that in the image on the right, that this particular college does not accept recommendations from other recommenders. So trying to make that clear to students, like, okay, this particular college does require a counselor letter or does not require another type of letter. So just improving that transparency and making it clear to students from the recommender side of things. We also made some updates to our financial aid resources tab. So in the application, that image on the right is actually a screen grab from the application platform. You can see the different tabs at the top. The final tab is that financial aid resources tab. So we know that there's a lot of conversation and questions surrounding the FAFSA opening in December versus October. So addressing that in the update. And also trying to incorporate student feedback that we've gotten about this resource tab. So trying to break up the content into more manageable chunks, improving the notification experience, just making it a lot more clear the information we're sharing in that financial aid resources tab. But every student, when they're logged into Common App, has access to see this financial aid resources tab and have access to additional tools as they're navigating the financial aid process. So this slide here, there's no changes to student affirmations on application integrity. This is really in response to a lot of questions that Common App has been receiving about the use of ChatGPT and AI. We've been receiving quite a few questions, so just trying to discuss that a little bit here. Application integrity really does remain a huge part of a student's use of Common App from the moment they create their account to the moment they submit their account. So we did not make any changes to the application. We recognize that students are getting a lot of different assistance in different ways, whether it be from a parent, a friend, a counselor, and we see that potentially AI could be just another tool students might be using to support them through the application process. What's most important to us is that students feel they are submitting work that is authentic of themselves, that is their own work, that is the best representation of who they are as a student. And that really does come through in the privacy policy in terms of use that students will agree to when they create their accounts, and also in the affirmations that they sign when they actually submit their application. So the integrity piece is really crucial and central to the application process, and we feel like we're addressing that already through those components of the application. We've also gotten quite a few questions related to the race and ethnicity question, especially in light of the Supreme Court decision ruling that came out. Previous to that decision, Common App had already made a couple of decisions. First is that we decided to retain that optional question about race and ethnicity. It had always been optional, and we decided to retain that question. But one shift we made was to enable colleges to suppress or not be able to see that information in their application PDFs. So we made that decision prior to the Supreme Court ruling. We think that it's, our duty and responsibility, because we have so much great data and a wealth of data, to continue to report on race and ethnicity trends and to include those data points in our data analysis. And that's why we've retained that question. But we also wanted to develop resources for members, counselors, and students about what this change means and how it impacts students in their applications. So we created a landing page with really comprehensive information. We'll continue to add to this page as more information comes out. But if you scan that QR code there, it will take you to the landing page where we discuss and provide resources related to that race and ethnicity question. A couple of updates to the recommender system, which will really impact a lot of people on this call. You'll spend quite a bit of time in the recommender system. That's where you'll go to submit forms on behalf of students, letters of recommendation on behalf of students, track their application progress. So one change that we made here is that you're able to log in with one email to the recommender system, and you can have multiple roles as a recommender. And you don't have to have separate emails or separate logins for that. One login will allow you access to multiple recommender roles. For Common App, there are 4 different roles. Counselor, which is the person a student assigns that will submit school forms on behalf of the student. So think transcripts, but might also write a letter of recommendation if a college requires it. A teacher recommender, which is someone who's taught a student in a course or classroom that also might be asked to write a letter of recommendation on behalf of a student. An other recommender, this is someone who doesn't quite fit into the counselor or teacher role, but a student has invited to write a letter of recommendation on their behalf. So think a coach, for example, or maybe an employer or a college access professional. Those are some examples of what might fit into that other recommender role. And finally, advisor, which I touched on just a moment ago, but this is someone who really serves in that advising capacity, who helps support students as they're completing their application, but that person will not actually submit any documents or letters of recommendation on behalf of a student. You can have multiple roles. You could be a counselor and an other recommender, or a teacher and an advisor. And again, one login will allow you access to multiple roles. In our recommender system, you also have the power to download your data. And so when students have added you or invited you as a counselor or an advisor, you'll be able to see all of the colleges that student has added to their list, along with decision plans and deadlines, so you can help them stay on track and also be aware of the colleges they're applying to. You can also track their submission statuses based on the application or writing supplements, school forms. And you can download that either to track it for your own purposes or maybe for any reporting that you have to do. So just wanted to point out that you have access to download that data as both a counselor and an advisor. And then for the school profile collaboration for this upcoming year, this is more just an FYI, a for your awareness reminder that if you are submitting school profiles for students and you have a team of more than one on your counseling staff, they are really collaborating together on your responses to that school profile. You can see in that example below in the bottom left corner, this was an example from one school where there are multiple counselors, and each of them, this is a real example, submitted slightly different information. So just making sure if you have more than one counselor submitting school forms, that you're working together to collaborate on that school profile responses so it is consistent for colleges. All right, so now I'm going to dive into advising tools and resources pretty quickly because I know there's a lot of other information to cover in this session. So let me just dive into some of these tools and resources. First is our Explore Colleges page. This is a great tool for you and your students to explore all of the colleges that are members of Common App. I think it's a great starting point for students, and it is connected to their Common App account. So if they, for example, find Syracuse University and are excited to apply based on the Explore Colleges page, they can actually add that to their application and be able to add it to their list of colleges to apply to. A lot of great filtering options here. And within each member college, students can see maps of the universities, do virtual tours. So just a really great starting point for that exploration piece of the puzzle. We also have great website resources, checklists for students at any stage of the application process, whether they're in middle school or high school, community college, or military students. We have application and recommender guides, including letter writing support. So if you've never had to write a letter of recommendation for a student and now you're being asked to and you're not quite sure where to begin, we have resources for that. We also have Common App Ready handouts available in English and Spanish that cover a variety of topics from brag sheets to an application dictionary, essay writing support. So just a lot of great online resources that can be accessed from our website or downloaded as PDFs if you're using them for any workshops. We also have a monthly counselor newsletter you can sign up for if you're curious about upcoming updates down the line. You have the power to request a free map of all the colleges that use Common App. You can go to commonapp.org/map, and this is completely free. You just put in your information and we'll send a map to you so that you can put this up in a college guidance office and students can really see where all of the different colleges from Common App are. Now, if there's any big takeaway from this presentation, I hope it's this one here, that you have the power to create a practice student account. So especially for those that mentioned that they're brand new to Common App and aren't very familiar, this is a great starting point. If you go to commonapp.org and create an account, just select Education Professional and you have access to a practice student account. So you can see exactly what your students see as they're navigating the application platform. I'm still relatively new to Common App, and so I'm logging into my practice student account all the time to see, okay, what happens if you fill out this section or if you select this response? So I definitely encourage you, if you have not done so already, to create that practice account. That way you can better understand the platform and then better advise your students. So we've talked about the advisor role a couple of times, but I just wanted to highlight a couple of things here really quickly, that students can invite up to 3 advisors to share their application progress with, and advisors will use our recommender system to help support students as they complete the application. This is where you can download that requirements grid I mentioned. You can search based on different cohorts of students. Maybe you're specifically looking for your juniors that you're advising. You can sort that way. You can track student progress and even see college level details for each student. And if a student has given you preview of their in-progress applications, you can see the PDF of their application itself and be able to provide feedback and suggestions and edits as needed. And again, as I mentioned, you can download student data from there as well. We have these great video tutorials we launched just about a year ago, and they've been really well received. These could be helpful starting points for any workshops you have with your students. I really highly recommend that Common App walkthrough for first-year students. It's less than 5 minutes, so it's very brief. And my colleague Amani actually logs into the application platform, helps you navigate it, helps students navigate it, answer some questions. That could be a great starting point, not only for yourself, but for your students who are new to the Common App platform. I mentioned this earlier, but we did join forces with Reach Higher in 2019. Again, that's former First Lady Michelle Obama's College Access Initiative. And from that, we've created a lot of really great resources, a lot of student-facing engagement opportunities through Better Make Room, which is that student-facing side of Reach Higher. But one resource that I really wanted to point out is this Pathfinder resource. This is really geared to helping students find the right college fit, whether it be from the research side of things, actually applying, to what happens when they get to college. It really helps them think through what the best fit is for them. And this tool is available both in English and Spanish, and I can always share the link for that if you're interested. And we are available 24/7, and I mean that 24/7, 365. I think our response time for questions and issues you might be having is about 15 to 20 minutes. So even if you have a student completing their application in the middle of the night, if they have a specific question about the application or they're encountering an issue or error, they can go to our application support and submit any questions and know that someone will be responsive to them. Same thing for recommenders. If you have questions about the recommender system, you also have that 24/7 support. So really just there to help with frequently asked questions or issues you might be encountering. And again, that response time is pretty fast and speedy, so we can hopefully resolve your issue as soon as possible. Perfect. So pretty much near the end of the presentation, just letting you know that you can continue to connect with us on social media. We're in all the social media sites you can think of, both student facing and member facing, so more for college side of things. But anything that says Better Make Room is very student facing. So I know, for example, our TikTok has a lot of new information and traction there. So just trying to meet students where they're at to share information about the college application process.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Michaela. Oh, here's your QR codes. Go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. Just my last thing here is just, this is the beginning of a conversation, right? I know that I did not share every bit of information, even though I know I shared a lot of information. I definitely want to point out those last two QR codes there. If you would like a member of the Common App team to come present to your students, for example, or to another team about how to use the platform, please scan that training request form. Or if you're going through the platform and you're looking for enhancement suggestions, you can definitely use that other QR code on the far right to share some suggestions. So I know I had a lot of information to cover. I'm going to turn it back over to Texas OnCourse, but thank you for letting me share this information. And I'll make sure to drop my contact information in the chat.
Thank you so much, Michaela. This was extremely thorough, really great updates. It's wonderful to see all of the growth and also all of the resources that Common App has to offer. They're just really, really rich and fantastic. So thank you again. We're going to transition really quickly. We are going to save time for questions at the end, and I'm going to talk a little bit about ApplyTexas updates and some announcements, things that we're working on, and changes on the application and the counselor suite. So we're going to use the chat for this. How much experience do you have with ApplyTexas and the ApplyTexas counselor suite? We know lots of roles have changed. Some of you may be experts in the counselor suite, have been using it for, maybe 10 years with your students. Go ahead and let us know in the chat what your experience is with ApplyTexas. Wonderful. I see we have lots of folks that are really experienced, kind of all over. It's always really nice to just get a feel from our audience when we put together resources and we look at who's coming, what their level of experience is with our resources. So like Common App, each year there are updates and modifications and enhancements. So this year, ApplyTexas, some of the features that we've worked on is to make ApplyTexas mobile friendly. You all know that your students use their phones all of the time, as do adults. So ApplyTexas is mobile friendly. And I'm going to start off talking a little bit about the application side of things first, and then I'll get into the counselor suite. And ApplyTexas also, information is automatically saved. So your information is there. Lots of things end up when students start typing, they remember our website remembers the information and the data that is stored, which creates a simplified account setup, which is a username, email, and password that students are encouraged to remember and write down. And you can also prompt reminders and get access to passwords. But that profile information updates across all applications. So there's no need to constantly copy and paste if you're a student, rewrite information multiple times. That information should be saved across all applications. And there's just some improvements that we want to mention. The app creation is all on one page, making school comparisons easier here in Texas for students. Previously, some of the residency questions were in separate places, and the Texas residency questions are now all on one page. And the school search tool is also easier through ApplyTexas for students. So the counselor suite we know has been around for a very long time. I know that when I was working directly with students, I used it on a daily basis, if not multiple times a day, taking a look at some of those reports. So we'll talk a little bit about what the counselor suite is, just in case you might be new to it. That is where you as an educator get to see a list of your students at your school or in your district who have started or completed admissions applications at Texas universities. So you can see the link to the individual student admissions application. You can see the details. You can review the application progress and see where they're at and different school profiles or different school applications. So you can see also now a list of your students and who has started or completed a FAFSA application, a FAFSA application. So that information there on FAFSA is stored in a couple different areas, and you can create reports, get updated reports, and see your student applications as well as financial aid. So if accessing the counselor suite is new to you, or your access has changed, or your ESD representative has changed, it's just nice to kind of know the process of this. So ApplyTexas team and the team that we work with at the Higher Ed Coordinating Board, we authorize ESC representatives to manage those regional authorizations. So school districts actually have entered into an MOU with the coordinating board at the agency. And then the school district identifies who will be granted access into the ApplyTexas portal, or the counselor suite. So high school counselors are included in that, folks who serve the role as advisor, that sort of thing. Those folks email your region's ESC for access, and we usually always provide that in the follow-up email that we send out. And then that ESC representative will approve or deny counselor authorization. So this process overall is really pretty smooth, and there's lots of different supports on ApplyTexas if there's any issues with access to the counselor suite. This is just kind of who authorizes. ESC representatives manage that authorization, and sometimes district level counselors can see that information from multiple high schools, and counselors are authorized also for one high school. So there's a few different levels of authorization there for the counselor suite. And this is really just a quick flow, password resets. A lot of times this happens when we have a new school year, and then counselors will receive an email from ApplyTexas with login instructions. And then those authorizations are renewed every year by those ESC representatives. Some of you may be ESC representatives here in the session. So thank you for helping that process be seamless throughout the ApplyTexas application cycle. Also, we have FAFSA data in the counselor suite. So the Department of Education sends FAFSA data for Texas students to the coordinating board, and then we send that student status information into ApplyTexas, and that information is posted on the counselor suite. So just a couple of really quick improvements on the counselor suite that is also optimized for mobile. ESC representative authorization, that process has become more seamless, so that's easier for our ESC reps. We're better connecting districts rather than individual schools because we have lots of coordinators, CCMR, staff members, and folks that maybe work at multiple high schools. Also, those district level folks, counselors and coordinators, directors, those are returned as one list. And then the ApplyTexas and the FAFSA application lists are merged. So there's options there to run those lists separately, but also you're able to merge them as one. So there's 3 types of reports in the Counselor Suite. Students that are visible on that page, so the students that are yours and that you're responsible for, and their admission application process, as well as their FAFSA application process. We're really excited to make a couple of announcements and enhancements here. ApplyTexas will be moving to a new platform in the spring of 2024. So nothing happening this fall. July 1st, 2024 is the student-facing launch of new ApplyTexas for new applications. And as many of you know, if you are tracking and working on TASPA applications, that is for state aid, the list of students and their TASPA status will be included in the Counselor Suite as well. And you can run reports on those student applications as well. So we see lots of folks use this ApplyTexas data for lots of different things. You can focus on the students that still need to complete an application. You can take a look and see trends over time with your students. Take a look by class rank or quartile, work specifically with your top 10% on their specific needs, and also use the data to make comparisons. So we could almost have a whole session on what you could do in terms of using the data for best practices with your students. All right, I'm going to turn it over to Samantha Gonzalez so she can spotlight some of our resources.
Awesome. Thanks, Laura. And I will try to go through this as quickly as I can, just due to timing. So I'm going to spotlight a couple of resources. So for those on the webinar new to Texas OnCourse, the Academy is our online professional learning resource for college and career advising. It's free for all Texas educators and will help you prepare any student for any post-secondary option. To get to the Academy through our website, you just simply click on the Tools drop-down menu and select Texas OnCourse Academy. From that page, you'll click Educator Login to create your free account. And then today we'll just be spotlighting the ApplyTexas, Common App, and Coalition application modules. So within the course, the Canvas course titled Admission and Application Process, you will learn strategies to help your students complete applications for college admissions. This course features modules on ApplyTexas, Common App, and the Coalition application, and includes valuable information and resources related to the parts of each application, required documentation, and best practices for completing and submitting apps. Each module also covers unique features of the application systems and what you need to know, including the capabilities of the ApplyTexas Counselor Suite, how to support student application completion through the Common App Counselor and Recommender portals, and how to increase college access through Coalition application score system. So to find these modules, you'll log into your Texas OnCourse Academy account, select Admission and Application Process under Post-Secondary Pathways, and then you'll just select the module you wish to start. So we also have an additional resource to support parents and families plan for life after high school, and that is through our Tomorrow Ready Texas website, one of our newest resources. It's designed to help families access customized career and college planning tools based on their students' current grade level, interests, and needs. So when users create an account and choose the topics they need support in, Tomorrow Ready Texas will create a customized step-by-step action plan with helpful articles and activities to keep them organized. And again, this is really geared towards families who wish to support their students along the way. It does include 8th grade information, and it goes all the way up until 12th grade. Back to you, Laura.
Thank you. Yes, thank you so much, Samantha. And I know we're at 10:55. So I want to spend some time and take 5 minutes, and then that'll put us at time. If you have any questions, let's go ahead and see. I'm going to start with the Q&A box. And if you are, yes, you will receive a copy of this webinar and the slides. Absolutely. I'm going to take a look at questions in the chat, and we'll take 5 minutes and answer those on Common App and ApplyTexas. So D, what's the best way to get access to Counselor Suite as a Title IX program that serves target schools? I might need to ask a little bit more about that, but usually the best way is to make sure your district has added you as an authorized user, and the ESC will ask for that information. The ESC representative will ask for that information, and you should be authorized. So I'm not sure what ESC you're in, but I would talk to that individual directly. And usually we send out a list of that information. The next question, how will we find out how our high school name is registered in ApplyTexas in order to accurately track FAFSA completions? That's a good question. Jennifer, you should be able, if you're logging in, if you go through the process of approval, if you need to make sure, I'm not sure if I understand the question completely, but if your high school name is inaccurate or it needs to change, you can contact ApplyTexas support and we can make sure that's corrected.
Laura, I have an answer to that one.
Sure, thanks, Claudette.
Hi, Jennifer. So the data for FAFSA completions is a different set of data. It comes from the U.S. Department of Education. So it does take about a year or more if the school name has changed for it to be updated by the U.S. Department of Ed. So just remember, it's two separate sets of data. ApplyTexas team would not be able to assist you with the FAFSA completions, only the application for admission. So if it's really two sets, whether or not the school is listed accurately in the application, that you can definitely reach out to them. But if it's for FAFSA completions, that would be the U.S. Department of Education.
Thank you, Claudette.
Mm-hmm.
The next one is, when will TASFA reports be available? Claudette, can you speak to that?
Yeah, so we recently launched the 23-24 TASFA, and that we are starting to see usage of that, but we are expecting to make some edits based on the FAFSA simplification processes. So that application will be available probably in February. Once that application is available, the TASFA application is available, then you'll start seeing the data in the Counselor Suite. But we do have, we'll have 23-24 data, but it wouldn't be relevant to your particular students because we're weeding out students that are not, other students that are over the age of 18 that are still utilizing the 23-24 application. So we don't anticipate seeing TASFA data in the Counselor Suite until the next application cycle launches, and that'll be in the spring.
Perfect. And I think there was another question. Can you do a practice account in ApplyTexas?
Currently, no. But there is a test site that's accessible. So it's not similar to how the Common App described their tools, but there is a test site that can be done. So yes, we do have a test site.
Thank you, Claudette. And we can send that out in our follow-up email. And there was another question, and I'll take this, we can go over a few minutes. We'll take 2 more questions. Get the practice one. How will the TASFA apps be tracked in ApplyTexas? What will tie them together?
I'm not, I'm gonna guess I understand that question, but the TASFA is going to be demonstrated in the same way the FAFSA data is demonstrated in the counselor suite. And so there are a few components that are not going to be there because like for instance, there is a component in there from the FAFSA data that's labeled verification, and the TASFA, there is no verification process for the TASFA, so that obviously that information is not shared, but the data that is in the TASFA, I mean, the data that's going to be in the counselor suite will be similar to how the FAFSA data is shown within the counselor suite.
And
So it will link the student if they completed either one of those documents and the application.
And that's through the online TASFA. That like in terms of what will tie them together, that would be the online version. Is that correct, Claudette?
Right, the online version only. Like whatever data is in the online version, we have ways to match data on our end. We're mimicking that same process flow with the FAFSA and how we match, and they're going to be matched by school. Similarly, how the FAFSA data matches students. So if they're applying on the TASFA, they need to ensure that they're utilizing or filling out the correct high school name so that it will match the student to the correct high school, and that'll populate in the counselor suite.
Perfect. And last question, and I think this is a quick answer, are the essay prompts for ApplyTexas the same this year?
They're the same. They have not changed.
Thank you, Claudette.
Thank you.
I want to also make sure we make a few more announcements, and you're able to follow us on social, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, on YouTube. Like I said, we will send this out to everyone that has registered. I know we went just over on time and you are all very, very busy, but if you could please take less than 5 minutes, and it's less than 5 questions. If you could please take a picture of the QR code and tell us how we're doing. Also, you know, we take your feedback and we definitely read it and make changes. We're launching the school year, so we had a couple of little technical difficulties at the end, but we will follow up with all of these resources as well as the recording. And we would definitely like to hear from you. And we also hope you will join in the coffee chat later on this month. No prep, please just join us and talk to your colleagues about the things that you're doing using college applications. So again, thank you everyone, especially to Michaela from the Common App and Samantha from the OnCourse team. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Have a wonderful year.